Today we're going to be talking about fat loss and keeping it off. We're going to go over a summary of the current science as people know it today and my personal experiences with losing my weight when I gained it. So let's get started. My story. Initially when I was younger, I was very skinny and underweight, but that was predominantly because I was very active. I finished school, started working, and stopped exercising to save money and pay off my student loans. I gained a lot of weight. I mean, I got up to over 250 pounds. And following that, I couldn't lose the weight. Fast forward 10 years, after trying a lot of things like jogging an hour every day and really limiting my calories, I managed to lose it. But not because of that. It was a lot of trial and error experiences. And then I lost all that weight within 2 months. And I even managed to get a six pack. So watch until the end to hear my story and what I learned. My perspective is a bit different from common convention in science, but I'll explain it to you later on. Okay, so let's start it. The current science and where most people are messing up because obesity is a big problem in America. In that I think 2 out of 3 people are overweight these days. So according to current science, you must burn more calories than you consume from food in order to lose weight. You must exercise in order to lose weight. You must control your macros, proteins, fats, and carb proportions. We'll be getting more into the details of this later on. Furthermore, there are different body types. And the different body types mean you have to tailor your diet towards that because body type might be predisposed to more different tendencies, and you have to compensate for that because everybody's different. Your hormone levels affect your ability to lose weight. Fat leaves through numerous mechanisms in your body, and there are different types of fats, and they're burnt through different mechanisms. Furthermore, and finally, what we'll be talking about is the importance of recovery. So this is a high-level summary of how things are thought of today, and we'll be briefly going over everything. Okay, so you might have heard this 1,000 times. You must burn more calories than you consume in order to lose weight. People often resort to diets in order to accomplish this. Some popular diets include the ketogenic diet, where you cut out carbs and eat predominantly meat and fats in order to lose weight. Another thing is carb cycling, where one week you might, or for certain periods of time, you might have a lot of carbs, and then all of a sudden you'll cut it off for another period of time, then you'll eat carbs again, and you'll alternate that. Another popular diet was the Atkins diet, which is a high meat diet, and intermittent fasting, where you don't eat for a certain period of the day and then you have all your meals in a 4-hour window, and for the rest of the time you're fasting. But all these work through the same mechanism. At the end of the day, the goal of all these things is to restrict your calories. And the reality is, all of these will help you lose weight if you are in a calorie deficit, even without exercise. However, without exercise, the dangerous reality is that most people will lose weight, but that weight might not be muscle. It might not be fat, I mean. So you might lose muscle along with it. And if you look at anorexics and bulimics, and this is a dangerous thing to say, and I don't recommend going down this path, on a calorie deficit, most are skinny, most, not all. And we'll get into those details a little bit later if you continue to listen. So skinny fat. So basically, they look skinny, but they have a lot of fat on them. So they'll wiggle even though they're skinny. So if you jump up and down, you're going to see your belly shake, and for guys, you'll even see your chest shake. So the reality of it is that losing weight doesn't always mean losing fat. So people who tend to rely on these diets solely without exercising tend to achieve this state. So that's why you shouldn't just rely on diets, and you have to exercise. Okay, so here's another reason why you want to exercise while you're losing weight from dieting. Because as you lose weight and you lose muscle, or even without losing muscle, the same movement when you're lighter will consume less calories or energy than if you were heavier. Consequently, what this means is that as you start losing weight, you're going to have to do more in order to burn the same amount of calories. And what this often results in is a plateau where people will suddenly stop losing weight, and then at the end of the day, most people um, give up because they're like, I've been restricting my calories. This is very uncomfortable, and nothing's happening. But in reality, what this means is when you reach this plateau, you have to make some adjustments to your diet and your exercise regime, which is very important. And then the weight loss will continue. So if you just lose weight and do the same movements, the key takeaway here is that you're going to be burning less calories because you don't have to move as much. It's common sense. All right, so let's keep on going. So as I said before, restriction of calories is very important when you are trying to lose weight. So the way you restrict calories is control your food. However, sometimes there are things that we're unaware of, which may be counterproductive to us losing weight, even if we are controlling our foods. The first thing is hormones. In order to make animals grow bigger, in order to be able to produce more meat, and for companies to bring in more of a profit, they're injecting them with hormones. What this does is make them bigger, and then they kill these animals and then cut up this meat and then they sell it to us. We in turn consume these hormones that were fed to animals to make them bigger, and it has the same result on us. Even though it is not as prominent, it does do that. That is why in a lot of cases you want to have more natural animals um, that are grass-fed or organic, or even stay away from mammals and go with seafood, because the stuff that they might inject into them to make them bigger won't be as effective on us. So too, calorie lies. A lot of times, if you look at the very right of the screen of the slide, I show you food processing. And what food processing is things that companies do in order to make different types of foods from their raw form, like the vegetables and fruits that they're picked out of the ground from. And in the process, a lot of times, the actual calorie count for its mass increases exponentially. So on the very left of the food processing diagram, we see 2 potatoes. Then we go to the right and see French fries, which is the size of one of those potatoes. And if we look at the calorie count, or the energy that we will, and fat in it, from consuming the same half the size of that potato, it is almost tripled, and the fat content is more than 14 times higher in its French fry form than it was in the potato form, because they add oils and other such things to it. This is the first level of processing. It gets even worse with chips. As you can see, it is over 5 times more calories than it was in its original form, because they add oils and salt and other things to it. And the fat content is close to 9 times, 100 times actually, more than it was in its raw form, and it's not even as much food. So by eating foods in their raw form and in their original form and making them themselves without adding any sugars and unnecessary things to it, you're going to feel more full, you're going to get less calories, and you'll burn more, and you'll benefit more from it, because these are less calorie dense foods, more nutritionally rich foods, as in they have more vitamins and minerals and fibers that will help you maintain health. And overall, it helps to maintain a better physique without as much trouble. This is why it's important to eat clean. And it's often suggested that you make your own food and stay away from dairy products, which are often very processed, and stay away from orange juices and stuff. And if you're going to eat fruits and vegetables, eat them in their raw form or make them yourself, right? Stay away from ice creams, chips, etc., ketchups, and go with organic foods. The reason why is because when a lot of companies process foods in order to make chips and stuff, in addition, Just like what they do with animals in order to make them bigger, they'll add things to the foods to make a larger portion of them at a lower cost. So they're adding things to the food to crank up the calories and make you want to eat more. That way they could sell more and make a bigger profit, because at the end of the day, the food industry is highly circulating around making money. So consequently, it's better for your diet in order to lose food is to stay with the raw form of foods. And if you're going to cook it, know what you're cooking. Make everything yourself. So that's about processing. And now GMO. What GMO stands for is genetically modified foods, right? So what are these diagrams on the left of the screen? So over here, what my mouse is circulating around is actually a banana before it was genetically modified. So the majority of bananas you're eating in stores are genetically modified. As you can see, the original form of the banana, as it was in the 1600s, has seeds in it, and in fact, in the 1960s, a plague went around the world, wiping out the most popular form of banana that was consumed at the time. So, fun fact: if you ever tasted those banana flavorings and wondered why it doesn't taste anything like the bananas we eat in stores, it's because it was actually modeled, that flavor, over the original popular type of banana that went extinct. So that's a fun tidbit of information that you might want to know. So, um, and even carrots. If you look at the top picture, this was a carrot that's ungenetically modified. Genetically modified carrots that you buy in stores, they look bright orange and they look very different from this original carrot. Or even watermelons. This is an image of the watermelons from the 1600s that was drawn. As you can see, there's less flesh and more seeds in it. It looks very different from the watermelon of today. It's because it's been genetically modified over time. And on the lower left-hand corner of the screen, we see eggplants, which is a bright yellow color and has a variety of other colors and doesn't look like the oblong black shape of eggplants that's popular consumed today. And the biggest culprit is corn, which is on the top of the screen on the right. Look how skinny it looks. This is a corn stalk before it was changed over time to become basically have more flesh in order for people to eat. So what this does, the genetic modifications have done to the food over time, even though we're not aware of it, is increased the calorie count and a lot of other things in it. So it's food for thought, but I don't think that's as important as the chemicals in eating raw foods and foods free of pesticides and stuff, because that's going to mess less with your avoiding that. In fact, will mess less with your hormone balance and make it easier for you to achieve a lean physique. Okay, so now that we've talked about food and why it's important to eat non-chemically altered foods and stick to the raw forms of foods in order to have less nutritionally dense foods that are low in calories and high in fiber. Let's talk about exercise. I'm not going to get that much into it, as I'm not going to get that much into food in this presentation, because those are topics we talk about forever. So, but in general, in order to lose weight, you have to exercise. In addition to calorie restriction, you can't out exercise a bad diet. And weight loss, does weight loss have to do with burning more calories? Not necessarily. The reality is it takes time. And if you recall correctly, I used to jog an hour every day, and I never really lost any weight from that. The key factors that seem to be for burning fat is intensity, duration, diet, rest, and lymphatic flow. So we'll get into this later. But if your workout is not intense and you're not sweating profusely and breathing hard during it, and your heart rate doesn't jump, chances are you're not going to lose weight from it. It's a wasted workout. And if you're working out every day consistently and you're still not losing weight, lack of muscle mass is usually the issue for people that are not losing that weight. Furthermore, there's certain times that you burn more fat than other sources of fuel in your body, and that's when you wake up because you slept an entire night for 8 hours and your body's in a fasted state. What that means is that your energy reserves that are held in your liver stores a lot of sugars that it uses up temporarily, are more depleted. The amount of time it takes to deplete these reserves differs from person to person based on their genetics. Some people have to do a little bit more work in order to empty it out. But once you do empty it out, it starts going for fat. And then if you do cardio during the state or even high intensity exercise for like an hour every morning, it's going to attack the fat, right? And it'll attack the fat a lot better than if you were to do it after eating. In fact, they say during this fasted state, new scientific studies have shown that it is possible to fat reduce, target fat reduction, but only in this state, in a fasted state, if you do exercise during this time. Okay, so the importance of macros. You might not have heard of what the macros are, but it's basically all food is composed of three things, main components. It's called proteins, fats, and carbs, right? Which is like sugars. Fat, you know what fat is because we have it in our body, and it's also in animal foods. And then protein is the what our muscles are built out of. So you have to control these proportions based on your body type, based on what your the percentages of each of what you consume in your daily overall meals, in order to target what you're trying to achieve. So, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, ideally for most people, you want to consume 20 to 35% of the food you eat has to be fat. 35 to 50% should be protein, and 25 to 45% should be carbs. You play with those numbers based on your body type. A link to the article that talks about this more is shown on the bottom. When you're maintaining, you can actually up your carbs a bit to 35 to 55%, and fats could be 25 to 40%, and protein could be at around 25 to 40% of your total meals. And muscle gain is another story. Obviously, it's around 35%. But one thing people don't realize is that you can't just eat meat and expect to gain muscle, because building muscle is very energy consuming, right? So in order to build muscle, you need other materials like carbs and fats and vitamins and minerals. So play with these numbers, but ideally what people do is up their protein in order to lose mass, lose weight, or build muscle, in addition to a calorie deficit. But we'll stop here with regards to this topic. Next, don't forget your microbes. That's what the teacher says on the right of the screen, that cartoon teacher. So what are microbes? They're vitamins, minerals, because you have to remember, every cell in our body is a chemical factory. And in order to burn fat or to gain muscle or perform those daily operations in order to make our body function properly, we'll need these vitamins and minerals. And the ultimate source of these vitamins and minerals is real food, not those pills. The reason why is because there are a lot of materials that our body needs that are not realized yet. There's a lot about the human body we don't understand, right? Consequently, by consuming fruits and veggies, you will get these things that science hasn't figured out yet and fuel your body, and you'll be able to better function and reach your goals. Of course, always maintain a calorie deficit and pay attention to your macros. All right, supplements. So supplements are very popular, and you hear a lot of things about them. Of course, they're called supplements for a reason, because they don't replace food. Food is the ultimate source of everything your body needs. Real food, a balanced diet. However, with regards to supplements, in order to control the percentages of your macros, often getting a protein shake helps to shift those percentages without as much of a struggle. Do pills work? Most don't. The supplement industry is not very regulated, and lots of doctors and other people try to capitalize and profit from this by selling fake health products. And a lot of people buy into it, and it's a waste. It's a money grab, right? And furthermore, keeping weight off is a lifestyle. If you lose all the weight and all of a sudden you stop exercising and go back to eating unhealthy, you're going to gain it back again. That's just how the body works. You have to adapt. You have to change your habits in order to keep it off. So you'll have to make jogging and eating healthy everyday thing. A lot of people go vegetarian in order to reduce their calories consumed because meat is very calorie dense. Not that I recommend doing that, but I'm a guy and I more target building muscle, right? Also BCAAs. A lot of times when people are trying to lose weight rather than build muscle, instead of taking a protein shake, they'll often substitute BCAAs, which is basically broken down or digested proteins because they have a lower calorie count. That's something that you should be aware of. But in reality, you don't need supplements. Only if you need if you're having trouble meeting your calorie quota or controlling your diet, perhaps consider it. Okay, so hormones. There are three main hormones that affect our ability to lose weight and burn fat. Cortisol, which is created um, during times of stress, and that actually interferes with our ability to burn fat and often results in fat gain. We won't be going that much into it, but try to relax once in a while, and because a high stress environment can actually interfere with your ability to get healthy, no matter how much exercise you do. Ghrelin, which is responsible for hunger pangs, and leptin, which helps signify our body to burn fat. Also, there's insulin and all these other um, arrays of hormones. But in reality, by avoiding um, foods that are chemically modified, if you're a healthy person and eating healthy and exercising properly and resting properly, you won't have to worry about this. Testosterone and that stuff, maybe when you're older, over 40. But before that, if you're a healthy person, which your doctor could tell you, and your exercise, the chances are the reason why you're having difficulty losing weight is your exercise regime and your diet. Get those in shape before you even consider anything with regards to hormones. But hormones can make it harder for you to lose weight. So keep that in mind. And that is scientifically proven. So, okay, next. I mentioned before that there are different body types. We have the ectomorph, which is people who are naturally skinny and they could eat a lot. We have the mesomorph, who is a mix, who tends to be more muscular and not as skinny. And then we have the endomorph, who tends to be a bit more thick. So what is the difference between these different types of people? Ectomorphs have a harder time putting on muscle and gaining weight. Endomorphs have easier time building muscle, but they also put on fat. And mesomorphs, they tend to be a leaner physique, and they tend to be the more gifted ones. So based on your body type, like an ectomorph would have to consume more carbs in addition to their protein in order to, and their exercise regime in order to put on weight. Carbs and fats. The mesomorph could be more textbook, and endomorph would actually have to have a more stricter diet with harsher, less carbs, less fats, more protein, and be stricter on their calorie restriction. Of course, all of them would have to pay attention to their vegetables and stuff, but based on your body type, you have to make certain modifications to your diet. All right, now let's talk about fat. We got it. This is why we got to get rid of in order to get lean, right? And there are two types: visceral, which is the type of fat that surrounds your organs, and we have subcutaneous. And then we have another type of subcategories of fats, which is brown and white fat. Brown fat is the type of fat that is burned when you're in cold atmosphere in order to keep you warm, and white fat is that annoying energy reserve that makes us look chubby and like Snorlax. So, um, based on the type of fat you're trying to lose, you have to control the way you exercise. So, and your diet. At the end of the day, it comes down to the same thing. Um, more muscle will help you burn more fat at rest when you're not exercising. That's key point number one. So you always want to keep your muscle up. Muscle's easy to lose, so don't worry about that. And especially if you're a girl, it's going to be very hard to build any because of your hormone levels. Um, so you want more muscle in order to burn more fat. You got to exercise and you have to control your diet. So those are the key takeaways right here. So now, how do we get rid of this fat? So I mentioned before that fat leaves our bodies through the lymphatic system. What is the lymphatic system? You probably heard, you know about your bloodstream, right? Your heart pumps blood through your bloodstream. However, when you break down fat, oddly enough, there's another system called the lymph system that isn't controlled by your heart. So in the way fluids and toxins move through the system, and fats, coincidentally, its importance has been recently found out, is through your lymphatic system and through movement. So a lot of people, in order to clear out their lymphatic system, have lymph node massages, or they'll do yoga or go for light jogs after their workout, low intensity movements. Another way fat leaves your body is through breathing. So when you're working out hard and you're breathing, what happens is that the fat breakdown that does enter your the fat in your body breaks down into water and carbon dioxide, I believe. And then when you breathe it out, that's why it's important to work out hard so that your heart rate goes up and you start breathing more, because that's you're going to start breathing out a lot of the byproducts of breaking up fat. And then finally burning it. That's through movement and stuff. But at the end of the day, lymphatic system blockages are problem for many in order to eliminate fat from their system. So deep tissue massages can help clear it up. Often walking after your high intensity workout or getting a massage can help it along. And recovery. There are two types of recovery: active recovery and passive recovery. So oftentimes you'll hear only work out 5 days a week, or and then take the other 2 days off, but because they're going to be your rest days. But the reality is that if you're trying to lose weight, the last thing you want to do is be lying in bed all day on your rest days. So you can go for a swim, go for a light jog that's not going to bring up your blood pressure, go for a walk, a hike, something like that, because you want to make the toxins that are built up in your lymphatic system to clear it out of your system. Because the reality is, if they don't clear it out of your lymphatic system, they're going to be redeposited somewhere else. And if you're trying to build muscle, I guess it's okay because you want that fat and those energy things to stay in your body, so you can go for a more passive recovery and lie around down. So you want it to redeposit so your body can use that broken down byproducts for building more muscle. Another thing about active recovery is that by moving and not exerting yourself as hard, you make blood flow everywhere as well, which will carry nutrients and clear out lactic acid and stuff like that. So that's another way in order to. So in general, you want active recovery over passive recovery, despite common convention, unless you're trying to build a lot of muscle, because it helps you to make your system work properly, right? So that's something a lot of people don't realize. And story. So my story. So here we go. I used to do a lot of jogging. I used to box, and I used to be very lean and do weights and stuff when I was younger. I was the most unathletic kid though. I did a lot of activities, but I was very weak and underweight. Um, and then when I stopped doing all those things, um, and predominantly that was because of my diet, I realized that now as I have enough, as I started working and was able to buy my own food, because I wasn't eating properly. My diet when I was growing up was very unhealthy. It consisted mostly of meat and rice and no vegetables. And then I remember when I went vegetarian, all of a sudden my strength jumped massively, and everything became clearer. I could even focus better in school, and I didn't have to spend as much time studying in order to memorize things. And I realized that's because I had started consuming vegetables. So rather than taking a pill, a multivitamin pill, and that's because I was deficient in these minerals and vitamins that are um, commonly not doctors don't really understand their existence of, like things like boron or the other vitamin B's. I think it was vitamin B12 and stuff like that were only discovered more recently, right? And then there are a host of other chemical chains that we get from foods that they haven't discovered. So pills are not the way to go when it comes to getting your vitamins. That's my takeaway. And if you're going to take a pill, it's a supplement because everyone's body is different. If something benefits you, like you're taking an iron pill or magnesium, go for it. But you know your body best. Don't listen to what people say. If you don't feel it, don't do it. You don't need it, right? Especially if you're healthy. So after 10 years of trying to lose weight, I was doing all these things: jogging, boxing, weights, personal trainers. I lost all the weight in 2 months, right? Um, Basically, what I did is in the morning I would wake up, I would do BCAAs. I'd take a drink of BCAAs because I realized that I was hurting myself because I was doing too much exercise in an attempt to lose this weight without having enough calories. So once I compensated for that through BCAAs in the morning, rather than working out purely fasted, I trained for 2 hours with a drink of BCAAs, and then Muay Thai. And then in the afternoon, I trained in Muay Thai for another 2 hours. Um, so that was 4 hours a day, and I would take one day off. And then within 2 months, I lost all that weight, and I got down to 175 pounds. Um, and I had a six pack. Um, Furthermore, I was eating clean, so I had very little. I didn't have any candy. I had no dairy. My meal portions were controlled. It was rice and meat and vegetables on the side, and it was about a small cup of rice and a lot of veggies. I would go for walks um, after my Muay Thai class in the morning. Sure, I probably lost a bit of muscle, but if you're trying to lose weight and you have a weight problem, that doesn't really matter, right? So, because basically what you're doing is trying to burn out as much calories as more. So, if you have a lot of fat, reality is that you're not going to keep your muscle. If you want to gain muscle slowly without the fat, so that you can keep that muscle. Because if you gain too much fat in the process of gaining muscle, you're going to lose it anyways as you try to cut down. Because in order to burn the fat, you need a calorie deficit. So, yeah, I found my takeaway is that you can lose fat with a proper diet and without dealing with hormones and stuff a lot faster than they say. Um, I lost that 35 pounds in actually a month, but it took me another month in order to get the six pack and of healthy eating. So, um, yeah, so basically that's my takeaway. I took BCAAs, I wasn't taking a protein shake, and I had 2 meals a day. So that's what's worked for me. We can go into more detail with regards to what I've discovered or with regards to my workout journey later on, as well as analyzing other things. But I hope you got a lot from this, and that is all for now. So I hope you benefited, and until next time from Your Lean Physique, I hope you enjoyed this. On a side note, everybody's body is different and hormone levels are different. Muscles respond differently to different amounts of reps, sets, and intensities. Even though that most textbooks say low reps are best for strength gain, around 10 reps, 10 to 12 is best for size gain, and then more is best for uh, cardio. Uh, and certain people respond better to higher intensity. Certain people respond better to lower intensity. Our joints and flexibilities all vary. We aren't all genetically uh, gifted in the same way. Sometimes progress takes longer for some people. You just got to be patient and keep pushing through it. But you modify your exercises through reading, learning, and what you notice and pay attention to. Model your activities after people um, who have succeeded before or who have gone through similar situations to you, and stick with it. I would say don't give up before trying something for at least 2 months or 3 months. All right. So, yeah, that is all.